Right, Jeff, so we're in a crop of winter wheat. I think you said it was skyscraper.
Yes, a skyscraper.
Looks really well, established well. What sort of seed rate did you use?
350 seeds a square metre.
Yeah.
And we put it in on the 30th of October, so it was really late and it was quite wet when we drilled it, and it's following oilseed rape. So we'd done some harrowing before to be able to help control the slugs, but we were a little bit frightened, so we had an insurance 3 to 4 kilograms of slug pellets behind the drill applied off the back. So you can see we've got a fantastic establishment here of wheat.
It's really good. Yeah, it's very, very impressive, particularly for the year it's just been through. What about your weed control? We were wandering around your farm last year.
That's it.
Having a chat about the weed control and suggested that you spread out your herbicide applications rather than one big upfront stack. Happy with that approach this year?
Absolutely. It's some of the best advice you gave me last year was to put on a lower, just one active at the beginning. Working with Toby here on the farm, we put the one active on about 6 or 7 days behind the drill, so it was in early November. It went onto nice moist soil, so it was brilliant time to put it on. We then came back in early December and topped up with some crystal, so it gave it that second hold on any grass weeds. And then we came in with Pontos in January, early January, and we were able to travel in the tram lines and apply that third application on. The nice thing, and your advice about spreading those applications gave us that longer cover. And on this farm where we have blackgrass germinating virtually all winter, particularly in a winter like last year when it was mild, we were able to keep that control good. But we had some big so-and-sos that did walk through the chemicals, unfortunately. We know we can't get 100% control. And we've come back here with the hoe, and you can see the track here where we hoed it about a week ago, and we've taken some of the big ones out that have survived, but there are very, very few of them. You have one there, it shows it nicely, and Toby was so pleased because they're not in the row, because we put the seed rate up a little bit more than usual. We're normally 250, so we went to 350, and we reduced the width of the row down to 5 inches from 7, so we had a more condensed solid row, which you can see in this crop.
Yeah, well, as we were discussing, crop competition is so important. So the seed rate's important, spreading out your herbicides to take or have less impact on the crop, really important, and we certainly saw that last year with the wet weather. It's really paid dividends. So yeah, it's having a really good effect. And of course, the other critical thing, if you're going to do that, you've got to have confidence that you can get on the field and do it when you want to do it. Which
Absolutely.
Of course, using your system gives you exactly that. So
yes, we don't have a small light sprayer either. We're running a 5,000 litre night sprayer.
Yeah.
But we do have 710/38 tyres, and this year our tram lines are maybe a little bit wider than normal because of the tracking effect of the tyres. And when you think we've been through there the 3 times with the herbicides, we've been through there with 2 lots of nitrogen now, and also add all those passes up, we've been through several times.
Yeah. Well, it's early April now, so crops due its T1, I think you said?
It's had T0 on. The T1 is due to go on tomorrow, I'd say. Today it's a bit too windy, so I'm rather pleased that I can't go spraying in this wind and we're here.
Yeah.
And so tomorrow the forecast is for the wind to drop, so the T1 is planned for tomorrow. Yeah. I would have put the T1 on probably a weekend, but I'd hoed it on Thursday. So I thought I'd just let it recover from the hoeing a little bit before I put the T1 on.
Well, the crop's nice and clean, Jeff. I mean, it's really, really healthy. Skyscraper, as I said. Can't see any evidence of rust on it. Septoria levels are very, very low. Clean leaves. Rooting's good. Nice new white roots growing there. So we've said through the videos you've had about 30 mils of rain recently. But you know, pulling them out, look at the number of small worms working around this root zone. Worms absolutely everywhere through here. These small ones gathered around the root zones, which we see constantly. Worms move to the root zone around this rhizosphere. That's where their food is readily available to them. So certainly when it's dry, if you want to know where your worms are, have a look around the roots of growing crops, because that's where they'll gather. Lots of small worms in here, but
isn't it
really
interesting?
Well rooted, looking superb, Jeff.
Lovely, thank you. Isn't it interesting how the worms, when you look at those, when it's really dry, like a week before, we had cracks in here 1/2 an inch wide.
Yeah.
And the worms had gone into hibernation.
Yeah, yeah.
They curled up in little balls in the soil. If you dug down, you could find them, but they were really curled up and hibernating. And that 30 mil of rain last week, well, we couldn't have wished for anything better.
It's really woken them up.
And they've woken up and started to be active again. So it's fantastic news. But we're very, very pleased. Even the headlands on these fields, all our wheat crops are looking fantastic. There's no reason why we shouldn't have a good yield.
It's very noticeable. All your corners are full.
Yep.
Your headland turns are all there. You know, complete crop. It's
what also
is, testament to the system.
What also is interesting, why I'm so pleased with your advice, where we've used full stacks of chemicals, higher levels, and gone with just 1 or 2 hits in the autumn and more chemical in the corners, interesting you say, where the overlaps are, we can see those.
We've lost the crop.
And the crop is not anywhere near as good. You can see it from the sprayer seat all the time. Yeah. So the doing it the 3 times and doing a little bit often and topping up, for me, has worked very, very well. I'm very pleased. Thank you.
It's all the fine detail in the system which just makes it work.
Absolutely.
Better. Good.
Great. So we'll move over and have another look at another crop now, shall we? And perhaps we can go and have a look at the oilseed rape next door, and we can have a quick chat about that one. Yes?
Okay, let's do that.
You happy?
So one of the problem children for the industry at the moment, Jeff, crop and oilseed rape.
Absolutely, yes.
Full flower, but only waist high. You know, all things are relative. We've got a crop.
Yeah, we had a beautiful establishment, and in the presentation you'll see me bop down in a crop, and that was this field in November. It looked fabulous. We drilled it on August the 10th and into nice conditions with a bit of moisture. It grew straight away and came up beautifully. 4 kilograms, so we had 100 seeds a square metre, and we put it on. Up it came. We put a greenicide on and took the wheat out, and it looked fabulous. At the end of August, you know what came in?
Yeah.
And they then started to eat it, so we applied some hallmark on it and cleaned them off, and the crop came through quite well and looked fabulous in the autumn. But over the winter we weren't quite vigilant enough on our pigeons, and this field is probably my worst field that I brought you to, and we weren't quite vigilant enough, and we had quite a lot of the little larvae in the top of the plant. And at one point Toby and I were looking at this thinking, is it going to make it? And I must admit, I'm very surprised how well it's looking today. It's had the full nitrogen so far, and it's had no other fungicides on, and like you say, it's a real problem child going forward.
It is. It's difficult to know what to do with it. Do we spend money on it? Don't we spend money on it? It's really difficult to make management decisions on. I saw your rape in the autumn. Establishment wise, it looked fantastic. Yeah, I think you had, well, I think victim of your own success. You got rape for pigeons to eat, so
yeah,
they all piled in and chased your rape, and we saw what they did in the spring, so it was yeah, disappointing. But of course rape's also been through a very wet autumn, and the one thing, and winter, the one thing rape can't cope with well is really wet roots for a long period of time, and that's prevented that bounce back in growth that we may have expected from some of these crops, and hence they're only waist high now. We usually would be up here somewhere. So we're going to have to see how these perform. I'm sure yield is going to be less than we would hope, but yeah, this one's making a reasonable effort at recovering. It's got a good number of pods on it and a long time to fill, and now it's had moisture. And it is, as a crop, very, very clean. It's got good leaf on it, and it's in nice, clean condition. So, fingers crossed.
But what a strange spring, wasn't it? Because when we were in March there, the temperature was way down. We came down to 5.8 when we drilled the spring oats in soil temperature, and about a week ago it was up to 11 degrees. And when we came out of March and that dry weather, we had the cold soil, and then we had no rain. And these rapes just sat dead still. They didn't move, and consequently, when it did warm up, the soil was very dry and they hadn't got the moisture.
Yeah.
And I think that 30 millimetres we had last week is really going to help push this crop on and hopefully fill all these pods up and get all these flowers to actually produce a pod as well. And maybe the yield, it can be rather surprising with oilseed rape sometimes.
It can, yeah. Yes, it can.
Maybe I'm being optimistic,
yeah,
but
yeah, I mean, it's got a lovely set of roots on it at the moment. It's really doing what rape does in May and throwing out this absolute mass of feeding roots to pick up nitrogen now. You know, to get these pods nice and filled. It's nicely branched, so small plant, not very high, but nicely branched. Good pod number on it. Not too many, and we actually don't want too many pods. We want, you know, good seed size in those pods. Just hoping that it grows all through the summer, because we've got quite a lot of holes in these leaf petioles where larvae have obviously gone in. So hopefully they're not having too much impact inside the stem, and that looks nice. Hang on.
There
we can, you can just see some browning inside the stem going on.
See where he's active in there still, and really a big nuisance, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. It's a lot better than I've seen elsewhere, but we've still got the telltale signs of those cabbage stem flea beetle larvae boring through the centre of this plant. And whichever way we look at it, we can make all the excuses in the world. It's this pest that's really we're up against, and
nothing we can do it in
there seems to be very little we can do
in the current climate. No, and I guess if we extend the rotation, which we've tried to do on this farm, we've gone from 2 wheats and oilseed rape for several years, and we've stopped growing rape for 3 years, and we came back into it, but unfortunately all our neighbours are still growing rape, so those beetle are still carrying over on other farms.
And that's the problem. The field 5k that way, they can blow in and affect you exactly the same way. It's not like blackgrass where your problem is your problem. No, breeding larvae throughout this period is just going to blow for 5 or 10k around your farm and infect other people, and the same with neighbours blowing into you. So it's going to be a difficult one, but I'd agree we've got to extend the rotation to probably 1 in 5 to grow rape on a consistent basis.
That's what we've tried to do here with growing some beans, which we'll look at later, and some spring oats, which are very good for cleaning up the blackgrass. So we'll go and have a look at those crops and see how we're going there. And splitting half the farm into 3 different break crops cuts that risk of having too much of any one break crop, we're finding, and it's also giving us a first wheat situation. So hopefully those wheats will put on even more yield, and we'll see how it goes. And when we get them clean enough, we may start to put 1 or 2 second wheats in to extend that rotation further.
And I've got you to drill some cover crops in this spring, just as a look-see, when we thought we were having an open day earlier.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think cover crops also have a real part to play in extending the rotation, introducing diversity and breaking our wheat crops up so that we can grow first and second wheats really consistently.
Absolutely, and I think also the cover crops are bringing quite a lot more than what we originally thought. We thought that they'd increase the slugs and be a problem and bring more problems than they solved, but it's really interesting when we go and talk to some of our customers around the country how they're seeing cover crops improving that soil structure and health, and on top of that their insect problems are perhaps maybe diminishing a bit. Maybe they're spreading that problem out.
Predators all the time. We're giving them somewhere to live, and we're creating a natural balance between predator and pest.
Yes, absolutely, and I think it's something to watch going forward and how they root. An interesting seminar I went to a while back, and we were talking, or a soil expert was talking and saying the cover crops, it's not the biomass on the top that we want, it's the rooting underneath the ground which is the important part, and bringing much more. And they did an experiment where they took the biomass off the top and spread it on the field where there was no cover crop, and then they did a yield where the biomass was alone, where the roots were alone, and where the cover crop and the biomass, and the highest yielding area was just where the roots were, which was really interesting. And apparently it takes energy to break down the biomass. So looking at these cover crops and choosing the right ones and the rooting is going to be really interesting, and all of us will need to look very carefully, in different climate here, different times and lengths, and when we kill them off before drilling as well. Sometimes when it's green, the soil is not nice underneath. So lots of things coming forward, and we've got so much still to go with these cover crops and learn.
Absolutely. So in a crop of winter beans now then, Jeff?
Absolutely, yes.
Tell me, you drew these in November in some pretty unpleasant conditions, so
we didn't think...
you must be quite pleased with how they look, actually.
I'm absolutely delighted, because we drilled them in the middle of November. It'd been hounding down with rain most of the first 2 weeks of November, and we thought we're never going to get them done. So I said to Frank, better go and try drill some beans, and he said, well, I'm getting along of a fashion. And I came up here and looked, and sure enough, it was like a load of cack, and he was drilling into it. The beans were going in a slot, not all the slots were closing. I thought, oh, this is not good. But the middle of the field, where the soil was resilient, looked a lot better than the headlands. I thought the headlands were going to be a disaster, and we're going to have to redo them in the spring with some spring beans, but they've come perfect, the same as the field. Yeah. In fact, they look equally as good as the field now. Yeah. And with these beans were planted at 27 beans a square metre, very precise, and we put them in, drilled them in, and basically we followed up about 10 days afterwards with some curb and some Roundup in to take any grass weeds out that were there. And apart from that, they've had nothing done to them since the day we put them in. And I must admit there's a little bit of beetle damage on them, but I'm really quite happy with these. I'd like your opinion on them, please. Well,
drilled, as you said, in November into less than perfect conditions, they do not look too bad at all. Quite a lot of weevil grazing on them at the moment, which, whilst it looks unpleasant, is not too much to worry about. The thing to worry about, and I've had a little dig around as we were coming into the field, and I was looking to see if we'd got any larvae from those weevil starting to feed on the root nodules. That would be my big worry. Mm-hmm. But with all of these pests, they are becoming very much resistant to pyrethroids, so we're really struggling on what we can do about it. But I think it's a discussion, Jeff, we've started to have across the whole rotational input. Is we can't grow any of these crops too close together. I think rape's got to go 1 in 5, beans will be 1 in 5, peas 1 in 5, linseed sort of the same, and then using those cover crops we were talking about to fill those other gaps to add diversity. Because the more we shift into looking at one crop, the more problems like this we keep driving on, and we don't have the agronomic answers, or at least the chemical answers, to alleviate them anymore. But as a crop, I'd be pretty chuffed with those for the year. They're well rooted, they've got nice pink nodules on, they're producing nitrogen now. It's been a slow start to the year because of the dampness and biology being slow in the soil, but no, they're really starting to get going now, and these should be a nice crop. I hope so. I'm very, very pleased with them. When you look at the soil here, and you can see down the tram line there, where we, with straw harrowing, in the picture I did in the presentation, we had all of that straw. That was this field, or these 2 fields here, and you can see we levelled that straw up, and today there's very little straw to be seen. Our worms have harvested it all, giving those good worm numbers, and I'm very pleased because in the spring we didn't quite kill as much as I'd like to have done with the curb, but what we did, we came through here with the straw harrow, and we took out probably a 50% of small grass that was there, to help the weed control. So these had the straw harrow through them, which is a pretty vicious bit of kit, and it hit them quite hard, but they're very resilient. They've come back beautifully, no problems at all. But I can see, in my experience, do like a bit of a harrowing. Yeah, they do. They respond to it. Absolutely. They seem to like a good beating, don't they? Yeah, like a good beating. Yeah. Lovely root system, Jeff. For drilling in the conditions you were in November, there's certainly no restriction in rooting depth. Roots are proliferating really, really well. The nodules are nice and pink, a lot of them. working well, and there's absolutely no sign of weevil larvae at the moment getting into those nodules and eating them out. So yeah,
that's good news.
You'll
Good
be
news.
pretty pleased with that outcome.
That's fantastic. You can see the old bean at the bottom there, and plenty of nodules, as you say, which will certainly help them going into the summer, producing a lovely crop. And they're already starting to flower at this height, which, you know, is coming on nicely. Hopefully this variety tundra will perform nicely and produce us a 5 tonne plus a hectare crop of beans.
Well, again, your first flowers are
just right for the harvester.
9 inches off the ground, so you should
Spot
be able
on.
to get the combine underneath them to get them all.
Yes.
A lot of flowers still to go here, so these are going to flower for some time. So yeah, good potential.
And a very easy, cheap crop to manage and move forward. And providing the price is reasonable and the yield is good, they'll stand up pretty well, I think, and turn in a good crop of wheat behind.
The worry with winter beans is always chocolate spot. It's really difficult and expensive to chase and control, but we've had a dry spring. Actually, the forecast is predominantly dry throughout the growing season for this year, with the odd shower. So chocolate spot needs rain and rain and rain to get going. So you should be able to look after this crop with just a simple rust spray at some point. Rust is bound to come in towards the end of flowering, so keep that out, and yeah, jobs are good.
Great, that's superb. I can't see any signs of chocolate spot at the moment,
No,
even after our rain, so it's fantastic good news. We'll have to keep a sharp eye for it, and if we start to see a few, we'll have to maybe look at addressing it. Yes, that's good news. Yeah, but a nice simple crop, I think, and very easily put straight into the stubble, one pass, no rolls or anything, and the straw harrow pre and post operations.
Yeah, and although you've been up against it this year, and you know, the herbicides have not been at their best in that really wet conditions. Actually, this is, as a pulse crop, this is one of the better ones for helping us control blackgrass now, with being drilled rather than being ploughed in, with you know, pre-em options for things like curb, and post-em options with things like crawler. Pendimethalin as well. You know, we've got an opportunity, and normally an October drilling window, late October. They're a good option in those low-level blackgrass fields at getting a break crop in that you can still keep on top of it.
Absolutely lovely. I'm very pleased with them anyway. Thank you.
Good. So in the spring oats now, Jeff.
Yes.
I know you grow spring oats quite regularly. They're not necessarily a reaction to the winter, but I think you're probably growing a bit more than you usually do.
We like to grow about a third of the break crop into spring oats, and they've been a very, very good crop for us. And last year they did nigh on nearly 8 tonnes a hectare, so they were a very good crop, a good earner. They were as good as wheat, in fact. Yeah. And
so what was your management through this field from, I mean, you knew you were coming into spring oats. What was the management in this field? Because I know these fields are quite bad for blackgrass, so you put quite a bit of an intensive management regime in the autumn. Do you want to tell us what you did?
Yes, absolutely. Last year we had the worst blackgrass here on the farm, and those who came round the open days looked over here and thought, blimey, there's a lot of blackgrass there, and there was, and we did our best in the wheat crop to do what we could with it. But after that wheat crop, we took it off and we straw harrowed it and got a flush of blackgrass. We straw harrowed it another 4 times after that and took 4 flushes of blackgrass out between the harvest and November using the straw harrow. So we took a lot of blackgrass out, and we stopped harrowing around about the 3rd week of September when it started raining, because you can't straw harrow wet soil. It's a waste of time. All it does is pulls the straw up and is pretty useless. So it's time to put it away then. And we left it from September. Basically we were harrowing every about 8 days and taking another flush of blackgrass off. At the end of September we left it through till about the 2nd week of November, and we sprayed some of this on the 1st week of November just round the headland. Weather changed, and then it was about another 10 days before we came back, so it got towards mid-November. where we sprayed it early in November, we got a massive flush in the spring where we'd sprayed it earlier in November. But where we sprayed it mid-November, there was still a flush worth spraying in the spring, but probably only about half as much. Yeah. So we'd taken a heck of a lot of blackgrass seeds out. We left it through to the spring and we got to about mid-March. We came in here to a nice even flush of blackgrass again, took that out with the Roundup in the spring and drilled it with spring oats, which was our best defence against those really bad blackgrass fields.
Yeah. I think it's really important to remember with the blackgrass management is that November spray is really important. If you can take out blackgrass at that point, you give it a blank canvas in which to grow again through
Absolutely.
the winter. You don't normally get too much, but at least you keep it growing. If you don't spray it off in November, it just stops any further emergence of blackgrass. And of course you want to take the opportunity to get it to grow.
Exactly.
And I remember you showing me a couple of triangles of mist where you missed with the sprayer in that early November spray, and it was a real forest of blackgrass.
It was thicker than my back lawn,
yeah,
so you can see really bad.
Impressive level of blackgrass. We've got a little bit of blackgrass in here now, but you're going to come through with your hoe.
The TerraBlade, yes.
And take that out. Obviously we don't have really any chemical options in Oats to address that, but at least you have the opportunity of coming through with the hoe on the wider rows, and that looks like that will do a pretty good job, given that we've also got spring oats here, which are going to get very competitive in the next month or so.
As in the presentation, you saw how competitive they were in the picture last year. These will be just the same. Yeah. And we'd hoed those last year as well. And when I hoed them, it didn't pay to look behind because it looked as if we killed more oats than anything. But they came back as thick as we saw with the little doggy. Yeah. Interestingly, Dick, is one of the things we did here, blackgrass loves wetter soil. So we've taken the opportunity this spring to put the mole drainer in and mole drain through these oats about 5 days after drilling. You can't see where we've been, but if you look down at the ground you'll just see where the channels are. And that's the ideal time for doing moling because the subsoil is nice and damp. This spring was brilliant with that hot dry weather because the top was nice and dry and tight, and we put in fantastic moles, and that will take the water off this field for many years now, and hopefully if we take the water away we'll take some of that grassweed pressure away with it.
Absolutely, and we can just see a mole line there, and there's one just over there. Well, they're about 2.5 metres apart. 2.5
metres, yes.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean I often suggest to growers that they mole drain their soil in the spring when they've got the opportunity, actually even if it's through a standing wheat crop.
Absolutely.
Do it in the spring because the clay is just at the right moisture level, the mole's easy to pull, but the mole forms properly.
That's correct.
In August it feathers, it's too dry usually.
It collapses very quickly in August.
But I usually get looked at fairly oddly when I suggest mole draining in the spring.
They don't believe, do they? And and you remember last year when we dug the soil pit and you found that mole drain in there, absolutely. 30 years old. Yes. And been in there for 30 years and it was still as good as the day it went in, and that was a spring mole drain. So it just shows the value of doing it at the correct time. Right time. And what the loss is going to be from our mole drainer in this field are absolutely nothing. No,
unless you're looking down the mole, looking across the field, you simply can't tell it.
You can't tell at all. And no. The nice thing is do it within about the first 5 or 6 days of drilling, we find, and it works fantastically well. And I even went round the farm, and where I had a few wet headlands, I mole drained through the wheat, and you can't see where I've been now. Yeah. It's fantastic. It's done a super job.
No, it's something that really wants to be considered in spring. Is spring mole draining.
Yep.
To get the best effect from it and long-term effect.
That's it. Yeah. So these Elian, they were drilled at 130 kilograms of seed. And so it gave us a nice plant, which you can see here. Dick is looking at the rooting now and the plant and the soil. You can see they've made good growth. They haven't had any rain on to speak of from the time of drilling until last week. Yeah. We've retained that moisture nicely. Look at the rooting there, fantastic.
The drilling depth is really even. And yeah, the rooting, it's it's much like we were looking at with that cover crop. You don't just judge what above ground growth you've got. It doesn't necessarily relate to the underground root growth at all. And there's absolute mass of root growth here, and it's all covered in soil. So those roots are really engaging with the soil around them, and the soil's in lovely friable aggregated condition.
The soil actually sticking to the root, I'm told, is a very good sign, because it means there's good microzoa there holding it on.
It's a sign of a really good rhizosphere. It's all going on around that root. The soil and the root want to come together, and you do need nice aggregation to allow that to happen. And it's clearly happening, as we're seeing every time we stick a spade in the soil here.
That's it.
Same thing going on.
Yeah, this crop we did a little bit different from normal. We normally drill them straight in with a mounted drill with no fertiliser, but we used a T6C this year, and we put down with 150 kilograms of DAP. So we put that fertiliser directly in the band with the seed to give that nice start for the oats. So there was a little bit of nitrogen, around about 27 kilograms. And we put on here 100 litres of N35, so it had about 135 litres plus the amount with the drill. And that's all this crop has had so far. So I guess we'll come back here and top it up in a couple of weeks' time with a little bit of liquid nitrogen. We won't go crazy on it. We'll keep it down somewhere about 120 kilograms, I guess, for total nitrogen on it. We find that the oats produce a really good crop with quite low inputs in actual fact.
Yeah, they're not a big user of nitrogen.
Yes, Dick, with this system, nitrogen is very interesting, because last year, where we are making the soil healthier, we had a field and we reduced the nitrogen to 140 kilograms on the wheat, and we then went up to 240, 190, 240, and we did some yield measurements. And last year the yield was exactly the same in all of those plots. But I'm not quite brave enough to go right back to 140 kilograms, I must admit.
No, I can well believe that, Jeff, and it's one of those situations where growers really need to do their own on-farm trials. National trials are all very well, but it depends so much on how you're managing your soil, how you're cycling your nutrition, and whether in fact, as you've mentioned, you're actually using placement fertiliser, because you're putting some P down with the seed. That's going to make your nitrogen use efficiency markedly better than if you don't do that and you just straight apply nitrogen. So it's definitely something growers need to do their own work on farm to see what works on their farm.
Absolutely, and get that balance, I guess. Yeah.
That less nitrogen also means less disease, less lodging, and less cost.
And of course, you want an absolutely accurate combine yield monitor, which we no longer make, obviously, and which is rather sad. But there are combine monitors, and hopefully they're accurate enough to be able to pick those differences up in a tramline situation. It's quite easy to do. Yeah,
it should be, and with GPS monitoring now and data systems like Omnia, you can take all of that information and make some real decisions with it.
Absolutely, and it's about making those savings as well as the ones which we're making with the establishments and all of those types of treatments, that we're then getting the job so we're actually making it profitable and really happy, and able to invest and look after our farms to produce the best farms, improve the drainage and those other aspects as well.
Absolutely.
So I think it's absolutely key to getting a good farm and getting very, very good crops. When you look behind us here, the field over there with the tree in was mould drained, and the one which we can just about see the bottom corner of there, we didn't mould drain that one because it wasn't quite as damp, but the one with the tree in had one or two wet places in, and you could tell where those wet places were because there was always more grass weeds. So hopefully the mould drainer will take those away. Yeah, absolutely, and when you look at the headlands over there and this crop of spring oats, and considering they had absolutely no rain from the day they were drilled until this last week, I'm very, very pleased. We kept the moisture and kept them going. And
again, you've kept the moisture, but what you've also done with your really frequent but light tillage, I mean it was frequent tillage to control blackgrass, but it's at each point it's very light tillage. You're just mixing the surface and the residues together, And that's giving you a really nice tilth to come in and drill with in the spring.
Absolutely.
And I really do think that the really light move of soil in the autumn is really important for consistent establishment of spring crops.
Absolutely. And what's so nice in the spring, when you came over this with a drill, we just had that little bit of tilt on the top, which then it holds the moisture underneath. When we have a top which is very capped and concretey, the capillary water comes to the surface, and the wind and the sun takes it away, and then it cracks.
Yeah. So no, overall, another excellent result. Well done.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure going around with you today, Dick, and I hope all our customers are able to see and get some great benefit from our tips we've given them today.
Yeah,
Thank you for watching our virtual open day. It makes a real change for me, because normally I have several groups coming along, 50 or 60 people, 5 or 6 of them for our open days, and we go around the farm and we all talk together. Today I hope you've learned a lot from what we've shown you on the virtual open day, and we're sad to miss you, because we do like giving you a bacon roll for lunch and have that participation and talk. So feel free to send us some emails and some pictures of your crops and your farms that we can share on our websites with you, and we can all move forward to produce those better, cheaper crops. I'd also like to thank Dick Neal from Hutchinson's for travelling down such a long way to come and see us today, and also share our day and with our self-distancing, and show you the benefits of the soil and the system, as well as us talking about it, and also the team here at Claydon, Simon and Spencer and Ollie, for doing their contributions in it as well. I hope you've picked up some good tips. I hope you can go forward. I hope you can save some money, and I hope that you're definitely all very happy farmers. Thank you again for watching this video.